Thanks, y'all.
Yay, we got this to work. Hi guys, we're gonna try something a little different. Um, my name is Stephanie,
I'm Jen.
and we're here with
I'm
Mike
Mike.
Cariff.
That's me.
That's you.
Good evening, everyone. Or whatever time you're listening to this, I guess, right?
Mhm.
We wanted to get some national officers' opinions on what we're doing and ask some questions and get some feedback because people seem to be a little confused and they want the knowledge. And it doesn't hurt to find out feedback and have discussions about these topics because that's what makes us a union. So I'm just going to ask a question and we can kind of go into the discussion, I guess. But my first question is, what was your reaction, your first reaction when you heard about what Jenna and I were trying to do?
I thought it was awesome. My first thing I did was I went to go look in the Constitution to see what you guys were talking about. There I had been looking at some other language regarding like a national referendum type of thing where you can change the Constitution through a referendum, like not at the convention. Because I think I saw the same, and a lot of people saw the same problem that you guys saw, which is that this is the first time we ever had a situation that I can remember or that I'm aware of that we had a situation where we had a national convention and we were still operating under the terms of the previous contract. We didn't even know what the terms of the new contract were proposed to be. We didn't even have the TA or any details about a new contract. So we got the old contract, and then we get a tentative agreement, and then we get a new contract that kind of mirrored the tentative agreement. And then we're going to be negotiating for a new contract again in early next year. And we're not going to have another convention until afterwards. So it's like, wait a second, when are the members of the union? And I think well, we know what the results were on the tentative agreement. A lot of people were not happy with the results. Even a lot of people that might have voted yes were probably not happy with how long it took, the amount of things we just didn't accomplish, and whatever. So the reason why we have conventions, one of the main reasons, is to focus our bargaining goals toward the next round of collective bargaining. And then, of course, you can submit amendments to the Constitution as well. And I'm with you guys as far as looking for an avenue where we can have some type of process like that so the members of the union can have their say prior to us beginning because it's our negotiations. It's the National Association of Letter Carriers entering into negotiations with the United States Postal Service, and our convention delegates are our supreme body of our union, and I think we should have our say prior to those negotiations beginning. So I like the fact of what you guys are doing. Like I said, I went back to the Constitution, read it. I said, this is something that's allowable. This is something that's doable under the terms of the Constitution. And
You thought we were
I
crazy. It's okay.
no, I appreciate the work you guys are putting in. So that was my second thought was, wow, that's going to be a lot, knowing the numbers and everything. And I've been impressed by the, when you, and I don't know how many like phone calls you guys have made and letters you've sent out, but just the effort has been there. And, it's, you're making progress. I saw today you posted something, or one of you posted that the number of branches that went to the national convention in 2024
Mhm.
was less than half of the branches, which is the threshold. You need to get at least half of the branches to sign on for the special meeting or special convention.
Yep.
And not even half of the branches went to the regular convention in Boston. So that just kind of gives you an indication of how tall of a task this is going to be. But you've already made a lot of progress, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we also put the membership number on there. I know it's delegates, so we don't send full branches, but just so people can grasp the idea of how many people this encompasses, because when people go to Boston and they see the 6,000 people there, they're kind of blown away. We already have 58,000 people that have signed on for this.
Right, through their branches.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a huge number, and just so people could grasp how large it was. Um, this one's going to be a little different. We've gotten a lot of pushback on this from officers, branch presidents, NBAs in particular. Um, this is strictly opinion. I know you don't have the facts on this because you can't read people's minds. Why do you think they are so against this and speaking out and like actively pushing against it?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to me. I mean, there is a small aspect of, you're going to force every branch to do something here. And quite frankly, if the president of the union called for a special meeting, that would force every branch to do something. So, these branches are independent entities, subordinate branches of the NALC. They're not going to be required to do anything. Every branch has bylaws, and they're going to have to make decisions if there is a special convention on what they're going to do. But I don't know. All I can tell you is that we've had that experience in the past where when you're trying to do something from that doesn't come from the traditional leadership sources, there's a certain number of people that are just not comfortable with that. And I guess we had a long period of time in our union where we were comfortable with the direction that the national union was taking us, or where the president of the union was taking us. I always give the example: the last contract that we voted on in 2021, it was the 2016 to 2019 contract. We approved that thing by 97%. It wasn't that much better of a contract than the one we voted down 71% to 29%. But we were in a mindset at that time of, trust and like, okay, this is the best contract our leadership could get for us, and we're good with it, even if we don't like everything in it. And that tide turned at some point, and some people are still stuck in that old, they're on that other boat still, and everyone else has kind of jumped onto the new boat, where it's like, we, the members of the union, are going to have to figure out what direction this union is going to go in, because the status quo is not working, and the results, I mean, quite frankly, the results from the last round of contract negotiations were disastrous. The amount of time it took, the fact that we just did not accomplish any of the main things that harm us on a daily basis in the workplace, the grievance process, the mandatory overtime, the hiring process, the start times, the safety issues. I mean, we just didn't make any progress. And then the pay just wasn't there after we had worked through the pandemic and we're told we were essential. So you want to look at the process. And if there's a leader, in the NALC that's not willing to look at the process and try to figure out if we can do this thing a little bit better, you shouldn't be calling yourself a leader. You're just a follower at that point. I think we all have to try to figure out better ways of doing it. And that's why I say I appreciate what you guys are doing here, because you saw a problem and you said, hey, how can we fix this problem? What can we do? And you put the work in, and you studied, and you came up with a solution. And I've been promoting it in my region, just asking the branches, hey, this is a legitimate thing. Please consider it. I'm not going to tell you guys how to vote. Every branch, you guys have your meetings. You guys are going to weigh your pros and cons or whatever. But I encourage you guys to at least take it up. And I know a lot of the branches in Illinois have taken it up so far.
Yeah, your region is doing very well, and I don't know if this will help you.
We only have like
you.
40 branches.
Yeah, we 13 of them have already passed the motion.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what the ones we know of. We're having trouble getting them to get back to us. Good. But I mean, they're all big branches too, so that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more, but you probably don't get the no votes. I had a couple of no votes in my region. You probably don't get those, right?
Sometimes we do. Because we follow up with them. We try to follow up, and they'll tell us. Yeah. So
not to mention, we have leaders that are super excited. They take it to the branch and then it fails, so they're disappointed. So like, we're kind of having to go through that with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I even had one branch that didn't vote no or yes. Mid discussion, someone passed a motion to not respond.
Not respond. Okay. So I mean, that's a no, but okay.
The branch president was so upset. He really was. He's like, I just didn't get it. Oh, it was a mess.
There's that thing, and it came up constitutionally, and the president of the union is really the person who would interpret the Constitution, subject to appeal or whatever at the next convention. But there was that thing that came up around the TA because you had branches that were saying we're going to endorse or not endorse this tentative agreement, and people were saying, wait a second, the retirees can't vote on the tentative agreement. Can they vote on that particular motion, in the branch? So obviously this type of thing is a little bit different because what you're talking about is the union as a whole would have a special convention, but the purpose of the special convention is solely, around the idea of, the collective bargaining process, either amendments to the Constitution or resolutions, collective bargaining resolutions. So, you would hope and wish and think that our retired brothers and sisters would kind of take a step back and just support the active membership in this thing, because the outcome here is going to affect the active members and not so much the retired members. But of course, there's fiduciary things that they have to look at. I'm not saying they have zero interest in the thing, and I'm certainly not saying they don't get a vote. But the active carriers are the ones that have the issue here, and they're the ones that are going to need the support of our retirees as we go down this path.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who actually commented today that he doesn't he attends all his meetings, but he doesn't get involved when it comes to the contract motions and all that because he has no skin in the game.
Right.
He observes and he doesn't participate unless he's called on for that. And I
Right.
respected that. He's active in his branch and he's letting them decide.
Right. Yeah, I respect that too. I think
Yeah.
that's on point for this particular issue.
Yeah, it's really good. It is. But just so you know, I brought up to Brian Renfro at my uh region convention, my regional
Are
convention.
you in 15 or 12
I'm
or
in
what?
12.
12. Okay.
Yeah. I brought up to him about the tentative agreement was only allowed to be voted on by active members, not retirees. Why was he including the work rules into the the new contract? Because he had told us he was going to include the new work rules in it. And his comment was, well, they were voted on as resolutions. I said, but resolutions are voted on by retirees and active members.
Right.
That's not a fair assessment. And he told me, well, that's the way the Constitution is. Somebody can go in and make new amendments. Jenna went to leadership. They teach you to lead and make changes and do better. So, I mean, in essence, Renfro kind of inspired this.
Right.
Stop that. You're gonna make Ed very disappointed with me.
You are being a leader, so don't worry about it. I'm giving credit where credit's due. That's what we're supposed to do.
I hope the program doesn't fail because of me speaking out. Because it's a great program. Also, I want to give you a shout out because I heard about your little mini leadership program that you have in Region 3, and I heard it's amazing.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna finish our last class. We do it in the first part of the year. This year we had like 20 students. It's a decent sized group, and their last class I think is June the 8th. That's like graduation day for them. But we put them through the rigors, give them a lot of projects and a lot of things, and a lot of them go on and get into the National Leadership Academy, and they're kind of, they're a little bit better prepared, but a lot of them don't. They're just, able to use those skills kind of locally or with their branches. But I'm a big proponent of the Leadership Academy. I went back in 2008, I think it was, class number 5. But you just learn a lot of life skills and different things that help guide you and give you perspective. And in whatever role you're going to play with the union from that point forward, you're going to be able to utilize these skills. And so I love it. I always encourage people to try to get in and apply. And I think it also invigorates you, and it gives you a chance to network with people all over the country. And I don't know, I've loved it since I went, like I said, in 2008.
Me too.
Yeah, and our class just graduated today, right?
Today,
Was it class number 30?
Yeah, Dirty 30. I know they didn't
30.
call themselves Dirty 30, but I wanted to be Dirty 30 just for the name.
Yeah, we have Veronica Ramirez in branch 2810, and Jim Rango's in from branch 292. And I heard they did well. They did well. I was there for the speech night. I guess that was in week 2.
Yeah.
The speech night they did, and they did great. They did really good.
I'd love to go back for that.
Yeah.
All right.
What are some resolutions or amendments you'd like to see put forward at a special meeting?
Well, and this one got voted down at the last convention, but my branch 11 in Chicago, we put forth an amendment to the Constitution in Boston that it just modified the section under the responsibilities of the president pertaining to collective bargaining. So right now the Constitution says that the president oversees the collective bargaining process and they'll utilize the people that they see fit within that process. And we just modified that to say that the president will oversee the process and the president will utilize the people that they see fit, but to include at a minimum the other members of the executive council, either in person or, debriefing them on what's going on. We just felt like, the elected representatives from around the country should be involved in the collective bargaining process, at the very least being debriefed on what's going on. Because that was a big problem we had in the last round of negotiations. We just didn't know what was going on. And anyway, it harmed us in a lot of different ways. That we didn't push for it as hard as we should have in Boston. I think if we put it forward now, it would pass, but at the time it didn't pass. And we're not going to have a special convention just because our resolution didn't pass.
Right.
But that's just an example you asked, and there's plenty of other examples. I mean, people want to change language to say if we vote down a TA, that you're not going to be able to implement the terms of the TA after we voted it down, which should be common sense. I mean, I was just very disappointed in President Renfro. He falls back on, I have the right to do this or I have the right to do that. And it shouldn't be about that. It should be about what is the will of the members of this union, because the president of the union works for the members of the union, full stop, end of sentence. And when you see that the members rejected the TA, even though, I mean, he told us he thought it was the best deal we can get, but the members of the union didn't. They didn't agree with you, brother. And so I think he had a responsibility. And so there's people that want to kind of codify that in the Constitution, that in that circumstance, the president has the responsibility to go back and fight for a better contract than the one that was rejected by the membership. And that didn't happen this time. So there's a lot of things I would be curious to see with some of the changes, like the Article 8 changes and things like that. Are those things that the membership likes, or are those things, we're not talking about amendments here. Now we're talking about, resolutions. Exactly. And I'd be curious to see what some of the resolutions would be regarding, some of the work rules, mandatory overtime. I mean, my concept on mandatory overtime is that the Postal Service should have to do everything in their power before resorting to mandatory overtime, meaning that they should have to take volunteers. They should have to utilize the auxiliary workforce. They should have to utilize other ODL carriers from other offices that may be available. And then if they're still having to force people and use mandatory overtime, it should trigger some type of something in the hiring process, or, if you do that more than 3 times in a quarter or whatever, that indicates you got a staffing problem. So then it should trigger them having to go back and look at their complements. So I'd be looking at, some type of resolution like that to force better contract language regarding mandatory overtime. I think that's a big issue. But I think there's a lot of things. I hate the transfer rules. I get,
Oh yeah.
At one point I made a whole list of, things that I was like, these are the things that need to be addressed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think those we should put them forward and we should debate them and we should see, what the will of the members is.
Transfer rule is horrible. It's horrible.
It's ridiculous. It should be like bidding on a route.
My husband's active duty military. We don't have a choice where we go. And I was 2 weeks from having to quit as a regular because I couldn't get a transfer here.
Right.
I got lucky less than 2 weeks before we had to leave that someone wanted to swap with me, and both postmasters were like, we're going to get it done right now. It was
and
luck.
they agreed to it.
Yep.
Because that's, I mean, even the basic thing of a swap. And like, why does the post office care if 2 carriers want to swap positions? But in the contract, it says they have to accept your transfer based on your work attendance and safety record. And so now you have 6 reasons, work attendance and safety record of both of the people, to deny a transfer when all you're talking about is swapping positions. When you go bid on a route, nobody looks at your work attendance and safety record. It's like, who's got the most seniority? For transfers, it should be who's next in line. And you should know, when your time is going to come. So if there's a ratio, you say, okay, the ratio is 3-1 or it's 5-1. Okay, I want to know, where are we at? If it's 5-1, you've taken 4, and that means the next one is going to be a conversion, and then the next one after that is a transfer. And I know I'm 1 on the list, or I'm 2 on the list, or you know what I mean? Like, you should have all that information, because you need to be able to plan your life. You need to be able to know what your time frame is and things like that. And it's a federal job. You should be able to move around with ease. It's the exact same job. If you have your job in Atlantic City and I got my job in Chicago, it's the exact same job. And we should be able to, move around and fit in, just like we're able to bid on a route. So that's another, to me, there's a lot of things about the contract that, we've just kind of let slide over the years. Some of that is old, some of it is old language, and some of it is just, the modern workforce. It just doesn't work. And there's just a lot of things to me. So I'd be curious to see some of the amendments, but I'd also be very, very interested in the resolutions as well.
Yeah, I agree. So this one is a little, I don't like bringing it up, but I feel like I should, because it's been questioned by a lot of people, and when we call them, we get it. It was brought up that an executive board member could make a motion for the special meeting to be called by the president. That was said a lot, and that it would take a vote of the executive board. Has that motion been brought up, or were you not allowed to talk about that?
No, it hasn't been brought up. We're supposed to be convening on Wednesday this week. So I just kind of pulled out my constitution right here, but I mean, the section on special meetings or convention, it says that the president can call one, right?
Yeah,
So I guess if the president,
if we hit the quota.
the president calls one based on the numbers in the quota. But other than that, you can't call for a special meeting.
I don't know. There's
What
language
gives
from
what would give the executive council the ability under the Constitution to call for a special meeting?
I have no idea. That's been said.
Yeah, I don't know that we have that right. And I know for a fact it has not come up yet. No.
Okay, because I know Jenna went to Reuters in Detroit, and she found a couple different language. The language we have now that's in the Constitution was there in 1935, but there was language from like 1889, something like that, that said the executive board could call a special meeting.
Yeah, that was when it was the post office department.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's under the so I looked under the section, which is Article 3, time and place of conventions and special meetings, and I don't see anything like that in there. Maybe it's under the executive council section,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it hasn't been done, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but I was just curious if that had been brought up, because some people are like, oh no, the board can call it if we need it. So.
Yeah, I don't see that. Everything under the executive council section is about calling for a meeting of the executive council, and then, the authority that the executive council has. I'm not so sure about that one.
Okay. So basically it would come down to President Renfro ruling it out of order or not, if someone ever did do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the last time we had a special convention, it was as a result of charges in 1993. It wasn't as a result of branches calling for it. It was because the charges were against the members of the executive council, and President Sombrado at the time felt that there was no fair way to adjudicate those charges except for to have a special convention, because there's only the only body of the NALC. Branches are their own separate entities. They're not really a body of the NALC. Delegates to the convention are the supreme body of the union, and then the executive council is supposed to run the union in between the conventions. And so if you have charges against the executive council, and everything under Article 10 is all about, the executive council adjudicating those charges. If the charges are against the council itself, it doesn't specifically say that, but how else are you going to adjudicate that except for to have the supreme body of the union, weigh in on that, which would be a special convention for that purpose. And the only reason why it's related is because if we were to have, because there are charges, I'm sure you guys are aware, there are charges pending right now against the executive council for our decision to, not appoint an investigator when Brother Michael Rivera brought forth the charges against President Renfro and Executive Vice President Paul Barner. So those charges are now pending against the executive council. And if there were to be a special convention to address those charges, I mean, logically, we could have a special convention to deal with the collective bargaining stuff. It would be no additional cost. Everyone would be convened already, that kind of thing. So,
No, that's not a bad point.
Yeah,
that's what I was telling someone online, is that basically that Brian could make that ruling. He could make that choice to do them together.
Yeah.
To my understanding, the way that I understand Robert's rules is that the way Sombrado did that in 93 was kind of like a trial per Robert's rules.
How the convention was conducted?
Yeah, like how he appointed appointed the investigator and then basically brought all the charges and everything before the body and let them decide.
Yeah. I think they had, I want to say 5 investigators, or they had a committee, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 5.
Yeah, I have no idea. There's a record of the convention. I want to say almost like a transcript of it. Right? So we kind of like how it was run because the president of the union normally presides over the convention, but if that's the person that's being charged, who presides over the convention in that type of a scenario. That would be interesting. We're on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's interesting. It's related.
So getting back to the kind of meeting we want to call, what are your thoughts of the mentality? We've never had a special meeting before. We don't need one now. We can wait till August.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that these are some special circumstances, I saw someone else make a comment that what if, say, someone came in and wanted to dismantle the postal service tomorrow? Would we, and we wanted to convene to talk about it and figure out what we can do about it? We would say, oh no, we can't do that. We got to wait until August 3rd of 2026 before we can convene. I mean, that would be ludicrous. So I think there's a lot of evidence that in the collective bargaining history, the only other time I think we voted down a contract was in 1978, and we voted down the contract, and then we voted it down because they were capping the COLAs, and then we got a contract that did not cap the COLAs. So we solved that problem. This thing did not come out that way. Like I say, to me, it was a complete disaster. It was very unprecedented. And it behooves the members of the union to kind of get together and figure out where we're at here with this thing.
It was historical. He promised it.
What's that?
He promised it would be historical.
Yeah, I mean, the historic part was the no vote. There wasn't much in the contract that was historic, but
I was being funny. You didn't pick on my sarcasm, though.
No, I got it. I just that process was crazy. I mean, we forget, but wow, there was all that time where we were being told on a number of different occasions and a number of different venues that either we're going to have a contract soon or tentative agreement, or we're going to arbitration soon, 2 weeks, whatever. I mean, that went on for like over a year, that soon type of thing, which is crazy. And then we're being kind of promised that this is going to be a great, we didn't have one. We went to the convention in Boston, and there were people that were saying there is no way that President Renfro is going to come to this convention while he's under charges, right? And not come to the convention with a contract. And sure enough, that's what happened. Came to the convention, and he was doing that whole, oh, my phone might ring anytime now. Let me, I'm gonna have to step out if Doug Tolino calls me. And, it was just this weird. And anyway, so that was an unprecedented situation. So if someone wanted to say we've never done this before, I would say, well, we've never had to do this before. This is the time for sure.
And so obviously you don't consider this divisive because that's the other kickback we're getting.
I honestly, I get almost, I don't get offended easy, but I almost get offended by that when anyone says anything is divisive, particularly when it's something that is written into the Constitution of the NALC. Like, if someone is exercising their rights under the Constitution of the NALC, how does that divide the NALC? I've never, I'm a big believer in people airing their differences. I think it's healthy, good debate, good discussion, disagreements. So I mean, I've never been a oh, that's divisive kind of person about damn near anything, but particularly something that is literally written down in the Constitution. I just don't see how that's divisive. And you know, honestly, we've seen people come out with people will take shots and someone will say that's a divisive type comment, and someone else will take a counter shot or a shot at another person, and they'll say, oh, they're unifying the union around around those ideas. And it's neither. Neither one is unifying or divisive. It's just members of the union participating in the democratic process that is enshrined in the Constitution of the NALC. It's what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, while you're on your kicking the tires tour, I know you've been at some of these branches when they have passed this motion.
Yeah.
What's the atmosphere like when that happens? It doesn't feel unifying? Because I know it felt unifying in my branch. We were all like really excited.
Yeah, I haven't been. I would say it has been, but I've only been probably at a couple of three branches where they've taken the vote. Obviously, I was there in my branch when we took the vote. I was in San Francisco, branch 214, when they took the vote. I think there was one more, but
Buffalo.
what I haven't been at is at a branch where they voted it down, or there was like a real intense debate about it, kind of thing. The branches, those ones that I referred to, it was no brainers. It was like, yeah, let's do it. There wasn't a lot of con to it, but I know there are certain members of the union that feel that there's a negative aspect to this and that they don't want to do it. And I still don't think that would be divisive. I've loved it. I've been to a lot of union meetings over the years. I go to a lot of the branch meetings in my region, and sometimes you'll have a real feisty, healthy debate. And the president will almost always come up to me afterwards and say, "Oh, Mike, I'm sorry you had to see that." And I'm like, "See what? You guys are having a good, healthy debate about the direction of where you want to go. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Why should you? You don't have to apologize for that." So, like I said, I don't see how it's divisive. Even if someone a branch votes it down, it still doesn't make it divisive to me.
No.
It can't be. So
If the voices are heard, that's really all we're shooting for, is the democratic process.
yep. Yeah, we're giving people the opportunity to weigh in. And like I said, I told all my branches, please, I can't tell you what to do, but just please consider it. Consider it. Bring it up at the meeting. Do your research. Get the materials that you guys are putting out, and if you want to present the pros and the cons, or however you want to present it, or let someone make a motion, or whatever. But this is a good time for every member of the union to weigh in on what our future should look like.
Okay. So the big topic, money. Money
Yeah.
is the big one. We're having a lot of branches worried about finances, and our opinion has always been you're just sending the letter. There's nothing saying it will or won't happen. Send the letter first, because there's a lot of aspects that could change how this goes. We could either not make the quota, President Renfro could not call it, or, like you said, it could be in conjunction with a different meeting that he calls. We also put out like a dispensation letter so that it could be held in conjunction with the rap session, which we know will be happening this fall. But
we don't know the fall per se, because it could happen anytime during the calendar year, right? Or why do you say
you're
the fall? Right. Okay. It
Sorry.
will probably happen in the fall, but it hasn't been set yet. I mean, theoretically, the president could say the national rap session is going to be, June the 2nd or something. I don't know, but at this point, it's definitely looking like the fall.
Yeah, I mean, no notice, but do you believe money is a concern and a reason? for this not to be passed in some branches?
It wouldn't be for me because look, that and I think it is a concern. I think all of the branches have fiduciary duties, but one of their main responsibilities as a branch is to attend conventions where decisions are made on behalf of the union. And this is a time where we as a union have to make some decisions. So, I mean, if I was a member of the branch, if I had to raise my dues, what, $1.50, it's not to pay for this, I would do it. Or I would just say, look, whoever wants to go, we're not going to be able to fund it. It's just going to be a volunteer basis, and whoever can go can go. Those that are elected delegates, we don't have any money, but we encourage you guys to go and let's rent a bus. I mean, like that. My thought is always let's get it done, and I think that's the majority concept out there is let's get it done. But there's always people that will look at it the other way, that this is money that we had not budgeted for. And that's why I do like the idea of doing it in conjunction with the rap session. You couldn't do it like in lieu of the rap session, but if you were going to have a rap session anyway, and a lot of branches have already budgeted and allocated funds to send people to those national rap sessions in the odd years, then you could say, okay, the rap session is going to be on, usually the rap session is like on a Sunday morning, and you could, you could start the convention Sunday afternoon, or you could start the convention Saturday or Monday or, whatever. So I do think it would end up being a cost to every branch in the union, but that's what we're in business for. Quite frankly, the branches get 2/3 of the dues money. And, hopefully you guys are managing your money well and you have a little bit extra. And, a lot of us have been lucky enough to get some good settlements from the Postal Service. And, we're doing pretty good there. But I mean, every branch would, if we were going to have a special meeting, I wouldn't let money be the determining factor for me. But once the determination was made, then we would have to sit down and have a good, and that's what the branch does when they have a meeting. They have to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do this? What's our priority? How are we going to fund this? I mean, you want to take up a collection? I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ways to skin the cat on something like that.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, you have kids, Jen has kids, I have kids. With the economy, everyone's tightening their bootstraps nowadays. It's not unrealistic for the branch to have to tighten its bootstraps and cut some things that aren't necessarily priority if they want to do this, because even if they're saying no, that they don't want to pass the motion for the special meeting, they're going to attend if we have it.
Yeah.
So I
They
mean,
should
what's the
attend.
difference?
I would hope they would attend.
They'll attend.
And if like I said, I made the comment that you could raise your dues. I mean, you think about it, the amount of money that we get out of a contract. So if we're having a special meeting to talk about our next round of collective bargaining and our next contract that we're going to get, if we're successful and it leads to a better contract and everyone makes a little bit more money, you're going to, like I said, you're going to raise the dues by $1 or something. You would end up making a lot more in a better salary or whatever, than even if, let's say we were able to bargain for a better staffing, right? So then all the branches would have more members that would pay dues because you'd have better staffing, so there's just, I don't know. I think the money works itself out. You do have to be cognizant of it, but if you're scared of it, you're kind of doing something wrong there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the will of the membership. If the membership feels it's important, you gotta make do. Money shouldn't matter. That's what they want to spend their money on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I only have one other question for me personally, because I thought up questions and Jenna thought up questions, because it's good to like pick other people's
So why
brains
are you asking all the questions?
because I want to get my questions out of the way and then I can listen.
Oh, Jenna's got. Oh, I thought you had all the questions. I got you.
Jenna's got
too.
some.
Oh, awesome.
What are your thoughts on presidents tabling these motions?
I don't have a big opinion on it. I'm not. So I know that Robert's Rules of Order are followed in a lot of branches. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a parliamentarian. I don't know what the rules are on tabling. I do know that you don't have to follow Robert's Rules of Orders, but sometimes the branch bylaws will say, we're going to follow Robert Rules of Order. I don't even know what I don't know what the rules are on that. So, but I've been a business agent 10 years. And one of the things I do as the business agent is always tell the branches, what you guys do is your business. And so I would say the same thing. If, as long as the members of the branch can have a vote and, they say, we're going to table it. If that's what you guys want to do, bring it up next time, whatever. I guess the example, listening to Lou's podcast, the example in Huntsville, Alabama, is that they tabled it and they're going to take it up next month. I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know what the parliamentarian rules are. Maybe you guys have looked into it more than I have, but
Not so much the rules.
There's a guy with a
being
bow
used as a
tie
tactic.
at the national convention, and he's the parliamentarian. And so if we have something at the national convention, we look to him, And
No,
go ahead.
I don't have an issue with them following Robert's rules so much or anything like that. It's more using the tabling as a tactic. Out of sight, out of mind, hoping it dies down by June so that they don't have to address it. Because if it's not addressed in June and it's tabled from May, the subject dies. And I look at it like, I know some of them are using it as a tactic. They have the information. They're saying, oh, I need to get more information. They have the information because we know, we've reached out to them, we've spoken to them, we've emailed them the information, and they're just using it as a tactic. I guess that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that you've sent them information, but there may be other information. And like I say, if a branch feels that within that 30-day period between this meeting and the next meeting, they will have the ability to have a more informed discussion at the next meeting. Or if they have something in their bylaws that requires them to handle business in a certain way, or for whatever reason, because as long as it comes up and you say, well, if they table it, somebody has to bring it up again in June. I mean, if nobody's willing to bring it up at the next meeting in June, then it ain't going nowhere. So, I mean, I don't see that as thwarting the will of the members or thwarting the democratic process. And I'm not going to substitute my judgment for the judgment of the members of that branch. If they feel like they want to table this thing for 30 days, that's their right.
Okay.
That's the way I feel about it.
No, understood. I know Jenna's got her questions now.
Yeah.
Well, you canceled a few of them because you said you're not a parliamentarian.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I can't
gonna,
help you on that.
I was going to pick your brain about a couple of things there, but
yeah,
there's a lot of reform movements calling for accountability and change within the NALC, but there tends to be a lot of backlash. What do you believe is the best avenue to take?
You mean like we're not talking about the special convention anymore, or
I mean,
the special convention?
Just in general, like what do you believe is the best avenue? Like sit back and watch, or from the sidelines, or get involved and try to do something about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Although the results were not there, and the process, around collective bargaining was bad. I was excited to see a lot more involvement of the members. The fact that there was like 50% more. We had 90,000 votes on the TA versus 63,000 last time. You had a lot of people doing contract rallies, people having votes at their branch meetings, people making their voices heard, right? Getting involved. I love all of that. And I'd like to see that continue into the 2026 election. I want to see more people get involved. I want to see more people run, I think that we did a really lousy job in 2022 of putting forward candidates, and it's like, oh, who's the next person up, and okay, we'll take this person. That's got to stop. That's got to change. That has not worked for us. Well, maybe it did work for us for a certain time, but right now it doesn't work for us. So
sounds like those mailings are pretty expensive though.
Yeah, you mean when you want to mail something to all the members of the union?
Yeah. Just hearing about the initial cost of the campaigning, I heard is expensive.
Yeah, my people on our campaign, they won't let me talk about how much it costs because it's going to scare people away. So you got to fundraise, slowly but surely, and we've never, as far as I can remember, had any campaigns or candidates this early in the game. I mean, we started prior to the convention, last year. So there was over a 2-year period for campaigning and fundraising and all that. And, quite frankly, if you can't raise the money to run a national campaign in 2 years, you're probably not a legitimate candidate. So, that's just kind of how it is. And I think they carriers, we just got to raise our May 9th check. We finally got that 6.32% raise. So now a little bit more money. So I've been asking people to donate $20.26. And for a while they were like, I don't have $20.26. But now, we're doing a little bit better, and then we'll get our back pay, at some point. And so, we'll have a little bit of money. But yeah, I'm not worried about the fundraising. I'm more worried about the members having their say. And so you mentioned the Kick the Tires tour. I mean, to me, that's important, not just for me, but for anyone who's a candidate, especially for the president, because the president is by far the most important position. The president is the decision maker. The president is the face of the organization. The president runs collective bargaining. The president runs the convention. The president heads the executive council. Like, get the president right. And, I think I could be a good president, but by all means, if you don't think I could be a good president, you think somebody else would be better, let's hear from that person too, and let's, as a union, let's make sure that everyone is able to hear from the candidates and everyone is able to have their say in this democratic union. And then we'll be more able to kind of live with the choices that we make, because nobody's going to be perfect. And there's always going to be people that are going to have different opinions. But if we go through that process together and we're energized and we're participating, then we'll more likely be accepting what the results are, and we'll be more unified as a union going forward. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
Sorry, my kids were being loud.
Oh, I didn't even hear them.
Good. That means the microphone's working good.
Man, there's no kids louder than my kids. So yeah, I don't think your kids are as loud as mine.
How many do you have?
I have, well, I only have 3 kids. I have 8 children, but 3 of them are grown and 2 of them are they're sophomores. They're about to be juniors next year. And then I have 3 like kids,
Little ones.
Yeah, exactly. Not so good. 9, 7, and 5. So yeah.
5? No thanks.
Yeah, that boy,
no,
he's the wildest one too. Oh my God, he's wild.
My youngest are 9-year-old twins.
That's nice. What are the twins? Boys, girls?
One of each.
One of each. That is nice. Yeah, my boys are twins. They're 16, but they're twins. Cassius and Clay. We named them Cassius and Clay.
That's cute. I like it.
You got anything else for him, Jenna?
No, I think we've kept him long enough.
All right. Well, now it's your turn, Mike. Plug away.
Plug away. I was just going to say that one thing we're working on in the campaign is to kind of try to gather different resolutions. So if we do end up with a special convention, I want to be able to send out proposed resolutions and amendments ahead of time to the branches, so the branches can discuss them. If we end up falling short, because I do think it's a monumental task, and I'm going to help you guys as much as I can, and hopefully we'll get there. But even if we don't get there, I still want to do that, which is to kind of put together a packet and send out a letter to all the branches and say, hey, start considering these amendments and these resolutions now, so that your delegates that you elect, and when we get to the convention, if it's a special convention this year or a convention in 2026 in Los Angeles, that, we're going to be prepared to vote. And if your branch feels strongly about a particular amendment or resolution, you guys should vote on it. And it shouldn't just come from branch X. It should come from every branch that supports that particular resolution or amendment. One of the, I got a lot of kind of contractual pet peeves, but one of them is maternity leave. We let all federal workers get 12 weeks of paid parental leave, or family leave, maternity leave, and we don't get anything. And I just, every time we go through contract negotiations, like, how do we just leave that on the table? Like, so that's just one thing that I would like for us to kind of put on the front burner and make a priority for this union. I mean, we have more and more women joining the workforce and joining as letter carriers. It's a physical job, and it's just uncivilized to, you know, have a baby and then just, you know, get your ass back out there and deliver mail right after you've had a baby. And and not just the physicality of your body going through those changes, but also just the logistics of, you just had a baby, the baby got to eat, the baby got to get cared for, and you know, it's like there should be some type of paid leave, particularly for the mother. But if we can get some for the father too, I'm not against it. But anyway, there's just a lot of things that I think we just haven't accomplished or fought for in the contract. So anyway, that's I'm going to be putting out some things. Either way, whether we have a special convention or not, we're going to put together some things. And then, you know, I mentioned and you mentioned the Kick the Tires tour. If you guys want me to come out, my son works for United Airlines, my oldest son. So I've been
passes.
yeah, no, I fly standby. So the standby system, it works really well out of O'Hare because there's so many flights. United has so many flights out of O'Hare.
I did it for years. I worked for an airline. I used to go in and out of Chicago all the time.
Man, it's I don't know how many places I've been to so far, but it's been a lot. And I think I've missed maybe one or two where I couldn't make it, kind of thing, because of the standby situation. But especially airfares are pretty high nowadays. And I've just been lucky. I mean, I'm able to run this campaign and not at a high cost. So anyway, long story short, you want me to come out, just say the word and we'll get you guys on the calendar. What's that?
You want to figure out where Lancaster, Ohio is finally?
Yeah, I have to put you on the map. Are you close to anybody else? I've been trying to do like if it's like a major metropolitan area, you might have 5-6 branches. Like, you know, I'm asking the branch, whatever is hosting the event, can you kind of advertise that if anyone wants to come, they can. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And, you know, so if they want me to come to, you know, even if I've been to that area and they say, you know, I want you to come, you know, back to this particular branch, I will. I've been to Ohio 3 times. I've been to Cleveland, branch 40. I've been to 4 branches in Ohio, one Cincinnati and the other one that's like right, is that north of Cincinnati, right by the airport.
Yeah, I know you were at Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland branch 40 and Toledo branch 100, and then I was in Cincinnati, which is 43. And then there was another branch. I can't remember what the name of that city was or the branch. They're probably gonna be pissed at me now, but I was able to go to their branch meeting and go to Cincinnati on the same night. Like they had a meeting and it was only like 30 minutes away, or maybe even less than that. Anyway, it was close by, and I was able to hit both of the meetings on the same night. So, but we'll find Lancaster. You call it Lancaster as well?
Lancaster. I just thought it was funny when I heard you say Lancaster, Ohio. I don't even know where the hell that's at.
That was didn't you guys have a rally or something at some point?
Yeah, so it was the first like round of contract rallies.
Got you. Yeah, I remember seeing. I was like, I don't even know where this place is. I don't think I've looked it up. Where is it?
Exactly. Look it up, Mike.
We do have Google, so I will. I'll have to look that up.
Didn't a mutual friend tell you to look it up on the map?
I think they probably did. Maybe I probably did at one point. I just don't remember. But yeah,
it's like 35 minutes south of Columbus.
Okay.
And if you don't know where Columbus is, you need to get a map.
Yeah, no, I can find Columbus. No problem. No problem. We drive there. We can drive to Columbus. It's not that far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Can't drive to Atlantic City. That's a 16-hour drive.
No, you can't fly to Atlantic City either. You got to fly to Philadelphia and then, you know, catch a bus or something.
Not on United.
United flies to Philadelphia, right? No.
To Philadelphia, but Atlantic City, it's Spirit and another airline that flies into there.
Yeah, I love my brothers and sisters, but I'm not flying Spirit.
That's where I worked.
Guess where you worked?
I worked there. That's what I worked for. I worked for Spirit. I got to draw the line somewhere.
I don't know about that Spirit, but
you guys let you drive.
Are you guys hosting like New Jersey State Convention or something? Something coming up in Atlantic City later on this year, right?
Every New Jersey State Convention is in Atlantic City. Every Region 12 rap is in Atlantic City. Every Region 15 rap is in
Right.
Atlantic City.
Right.
We have like 4 different things every year, and
Yeah,
they're
so
always there.
I'm guessing I'll be out there at some point. I would guess.
You never know. Never know,
Yeah.
because it's Region 15 and 12, and it's one of the few cities where the union is thriving.
Oh,
It's
that's good.
thriving. Like, we're not losing union casinos or hotels or anything, and we have a lot of different unions out here with construction, electrical, food. So it's thriving.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
All right. Well, do we have anything else to add, or are we good?
Oh, me, I'm good.
You're good? All right.
I'm
I'm
good.
Thanks
gonna
for your
I
time.
appreciate you guys.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.